Somebody wants to talk about data points, I'll tell you it's us. And the people pushing out this data right now is the World Economic Forum. And what they perceive as the top threat to economies moving forward. And Jason, what would that top threat be?
WFE says cybersecurity is a top economic threat.
You're so dyslexic.
Cybersecurity.
No, you said WFE.
WFE?
You blow my mind how
the WWF.
Yeah.
The World Wide Wrestling Federation. The Iron Sheik. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
The Undertaker.
Yeah. That's John Cena.
Yeah, I am dyslexic. I read a lot and I still get it messed up.
I don't know how you read things.
It's
like
my
backwards.
Homeschooling education.
Well, it seemed to work out for you.
Not really.
So what do they talk? What's the top threat again?
So the 16th edition of the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report analyzes the risk from societal fractures. Love that. Cybersecurity failure was identified as a top clear and present danger, 0 to 2 years. So they have a scale. So they're saying like right now, in 0 to 2 years, what's our top economic threat? And that for the global economy, this ever elusive, pressing danger, is cybersecurity.
We the whole world is driven off of data. So if you don't protect it properly, people will use it against you, right? If you don't lock it down under your control, which is an option we give you to do on TARTLE, lock it down. You're the one that says where it goes, and you decide when you want to do that. That's a step towards that responsibility that can help protect the economic values around that data. And even your own economy. There's a lot of good stuff that happens with it, but data can be used against you if the wrong people start playing around with it. So this threat is a big threat. So our whole financial system, 80% of the trades are done through robotic systems, server to server.
Bots,
dude. Lots of bots.
So Dave Hatter, a cybersecurity consultant, in an article, he said this. I want you to speak to this. I'm going to tee you up. Are you ready? Listen to his quote.
I hope I'm ready.
People still don't seriously consider the amount of information they are giving up when they just download the first free app that comes along. What information are they giving up? I'm not giving up that much.
Do you remember the one that was like face app, make your face look old?
Yes.
That was sending everybody's selfie into a server, and it was just analyzing facial geometries, and they were selling off this data all the time. It was just, you look like you got a little benefit for it, but the value was in the algorithm being built on the back end.
Yeah, so
imagine I sold you. I'd be like, guess what? I had 1 billion people use my face app. And then I go to some other government, whatever it is, and it's like, I'll give you the algorithm for how we, track faces, right? And show you how they develop.
Or say, hey, you can purchase, I need this certain section in Brooklyn, New York. I need all their faces.
Yeah.
And their geolocation.
Oh, can you get that for me? Sure.
Yeah, we have it. They downloaded the app and they make it look old.
Everybody thought it was funny that I made myself look old, but you have no idea
what
where
happened
that stuff's
on the
going.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's essentially what's going. That's just one puny little example of all the terrible things that could possibly happen and be used against you.
Yeah. So you have business, government, and household cybersecurity, and there's an infrastructure. And so when we begin to, economic disruption, now with household cybersecurity, people are not realizing the potential you have now with fragmenting your workers and now they're just using their networking system that their teenagers are on, and who knows what's going on there.
No VPNs used in the house. Anybody could be on the pipe tapping into it. Do you think Xfinity is really giving you all the tools to protect yourself? And how many people are aware? Here's another thing. How many people are aware of how to use those tools?
Yes.
Like when you say, to most people, you say, do you know what a VPN is? They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Do you know what a fingerprint is? No, what are you talking about? What is that? They don't know what any of this stuff is.
No, they don't. Yeah.
And they don't realize that these are these key tracking things. You know what an urchin tracking monitor is?
I know what cookies are, especially chocolate chip ones.
Yeah, chocolate chip cookies, right? Yeah.
Those ones from Whole Foods?
Baked by the online Cookie Monster.
The vegan chocolate chip
those
cookies
ones are
at Whole Foods.
so good. They're phenomenal. It's the best $5 you could spend.
So they have several other issues that need to be addressed, and I want to hit these.
Hit these bullet points. Give it to us.
Widespread lack of cybersecurity expertise.
Didn't we just say that? So there's not enough experts in the field, and not enough of them sharing what they know to people who need to know it.
Increased business dependence on third parties as automation and 5G networks become more widespread.
Yeah, so these third parties, there's stuff is becoming less centralized. So it's pretty much a bunch of third parties that come together as like an amalgamation to create a system or a product or a service. So you have to have, and they're all going to have different rules by which they operate by. So when they come together, it's like, well, what is kind of like the shared rule of cybersecurity for how we're going to do this? Even though you operate under your thing, you value this, you value that.
Supply chain attacks will become a larger issue in this emerging interconnected ecosystem.
Yeah, and we had touched on this before, like 30 to 100 episodes back about, blockchain being used in the supply chain so that it becomes, albeit quite difficult and computationally impossible right at this moment for someone to fraudulently, alter a supply chain. Or to say, I know that this product moved from here to here to here to here. This is how many times it was touched by this person. You have a recorded ledger of how that's being moved. That's very important.
Yeah, increasing impact of national security challenges on corporate cybersecurity strategies.
Well, yeah, like we said in our previous episode to this, corporations really have more power than governments do.
Yes.
Hands down. So you should really be looking first at corporations and their cybersecurity efforts. And if you really want to dig into people that are big on cybersecurity, look into people who design weapon systems, right?
Yes.
Look into the cybersecurity thing around financial networks, big ones.
Right.
Like, from Fidelity to JP Morgan to whatever, you name it, because they're trying to protect, or BlackRock. See how they protect that data.
Right.
Don't look to Experian. They do a bad job. These, even though they're used for very specific systems, there's great things to be learned from the experts who have designed around that. Okay? Even the ones who design the security systems for like the national labs here. You're working on very cutting edge stuff. And from a stance of espionage, people would want to know.
But when I look at this next one, and this is interesting, complex sets of exiting proposed regulations. I want to say this. There was a comedian a long time ago, and I heard it was so funny. They're like, what if you could have the politicians have to be like NASCAR, where they had to wear all their sponsors on like on their suit jackets?
They wouldn't have enough real estate on their suit jackets. And then,
but wouldn't that be funny? Okay,
after that,
who are in the pocket with? Who are you in the pocket with? Oh, okay, perfect. Well, it's this, and this.
Oh, and by the way, once you're done, change the car tire on that corporation's car as fast as you can.
Yeah,
they've blown a tire. Can you fix it for them?
But when you look at regulations,
we've dropped some oil in the ocean. Can you clean it up?
We're just so far behind. We're as old as our politicians are, is as old as our regulations.
Regulations are funny, because you have to force people to be responsible because otherwise they wouldn't be.
Right.
It's just an interesting dynamic of human beings that, hopefully we come around to learning about ourselves.
Well, and then you have arguments over free market. Would free market solve these issues just off of competition?
I don't think competition. I think the application of free market and competition together. That's not the solve.
No,
it's free market and cooperation.
Well, yeah, and it's collective consciousness. You know what I mean? It's in the sense of and I'm not talking in a spiritual woo-woo way. I'm just talking for the greater good of humanity.
No, it's all of our thoughts coming together.
Yeah, it's our thoughts, and then so if everybody was being a good person. Mm-hmm. Not being selfish, being good person, being responsible, you wouldn't have to have regulation.
People were
it's obvious.
People were self-regulating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your body can self-regulate its thermal temperatures and digesting food, why can you not do that with your mind? Why do you make it so difficult? All right, so go ahead. Sorry, before I
difficulty
digress.
of capturing and prosecuting cyber criminals at a distance.
Well, here's the thing. So I use a VPN. Mm-hmm. Apart from you seeing me here on camera, you wouldn't know what country I was possibly like accessing an internet page from.
Well, you also wouldn't know what country we talk about it being in.
Yeah, but if we didn't say anything,
but we can be in Albania doing this.
You would have no idea.
Yeah,
I use a Tor browser plus a VPN, and I scramble my fingerprint, so you never know what browser, what operating system I'm using. It's always different every single time. It's like the amount of relays that go through the nodes. Like, so if you try and go back and like try and find somebody, like they could be using 1,000 different nodes, or you could even falsify the access to say, oh, if I was doing a hack, like some sort of attack,
right?
I don't like using the word hack. If I was doing some sort of cybersecurity no, I could show that I'm accessing it from a place that I may not even be. I could ghost access it.
Yes.
There's just, the more creative they are, the more dangerous they become.
Yeah, because creativity breeds risk.
Yeah, creativity breeds risk. That's the nature of creativity. And so I would just hope people be creative and positive, but they're not. Some of them are not.
And then we'll get to the last two here. This one's good for TARTLE. Are we ready?
Yeah, I like that.
4 times increase in data by 2025. Data is increasingly valuable.
Wow. No way.
Yeah, 4 times increase in, 4 years?
I know. Can you tell me why the World Economic Forum just is coming to realize that? I'm like, it's 2021, March 3rd.
Yeah, and
we could have. The second you saw computerized trading happening in huge fiber lines between financial institutions, you would have been like, yeah, data's a driver here. If you knew that data was required, large amounts of data, swaths of data were required to launch a rocket from here to the moon. Well, a rocket into space and then put another thing off of that rocket and send it to the moon, and it was all data driven. That should be your first be like, wait a minute, I can see where this is headed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Obviously, yeah.
Well,
value's insane.
I mean, China's recognizes this.
Well, NASA recognizes it in the value of protecting human life.
Right. Yes, of course.
I'll give that to NASA.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, if they screw up their data, that's people's lives they have in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's how everyone else should be looking at it. Like, we should be really sensitive with this very valuable thing. We make a lot of choices off this stuff. We do a lot of bad choices because we don't collect enough of it, and we don't collect it in a truthful manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's so funny how when we look at data and, especially understanding like all these scientists that are coming up with all this data right now, because, there just seems to be, and then the struggle for funding, it's like, and then we can spend $1 trillion on a jet that doesn't work.
1.9 trillion.
Yeah, almost 2 trillion.
F-35.
But then we have a scientist working in the Baltic Ocean.
Literally trying to solve
Baltic
the
Sea, yeah.
coral reaf issues and darkening waters, and they can't get any funding. But we're pouring 1.9 trillion into a fighter jet.
And those are that's that first party data. That's that part that's going to 10x or 100x us as humanity, not that jet.
No,
the jet's cool.
Honestly, the jet doesn't decrease our risk.
Mm-hmm.
It increases our risk because now we're more of a technological threat to somebody.
Yes.
There's nothing unifying about that. The shape of the thing looks angry. Does it not? But when you look at someone that's saying, I realize that the ocean here on the eastern coast of the United States is also affected by what's going on in Indonesia and vice versa. We need to look at that. It doesn't matter where we are. We're all affecting one another.
The biggest threat, though, to me, the biggest threat for a nation is that you have people united and you have a strong economy. To me, that's the biggest threat. Because now there's more to lose.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're focused now.
Right. It's like, in World War II when you have like women going into the factories and making planes, and then everybody just making this huge sacrifice and war bonds and all this stuff going on to try to, help Great Britain out. And it was just like this, how do you stand against that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's difficult. So now I got to ask you another question then. So say the whole world's on TARTLE. We're in 175 countries.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's responsible for our data. Who do you target then? Everyone? Now we're all stepping up. Now we're all unified. Now we're all a part of this huge, strong economy. And we're all working towards it and being respected for it.
And it creates,
the risk drops off then.
Yes. Yeah. And then you begin to start seeing, if I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to, healing.
Healing?
Like lands being healed.
Wow. That's the first time we've used this word on the podcast.
But you know what I mean? It begins to all this years and years of, this economical fracturing,
fracturing,
the control of power to certain groups. Mm-hmm. All of that begins to, as people take responsibility. Yeah. Then that responsibility is not, then it's like, well, why does this person have all this power?
Yeah. It dissolves.
I can self-regulate myself.
Yeah. It dissolves that false power paradigm that's there. And things become inherently more centralized. It stabilizes and decreases the risk profile.
Mm-hmm.
The shared responsibility is what that future looks like.
And then the last one, and we'll be done, which I like this one. Reliance on algorithms that can amplify societal fractures.
How many times have you and I talked about algorithms? All the time. It's so important that if, we're going to really buckle down and, really place all of our bets on artificial intelligence, machine learning and deep machine learning.
Right.
We really got to design those algorithms properly. So they're not biased. They don't put people in buckets. They don't racially profile. They don't do these things. They actually, they are inclusive, right? Because we have an issue with the exclusivity about how we design things.
It's so funny. It's like, remember we talked about the U.S. Census still doing the old way, instead of using blockchain and stuff. They have somebody come into the door. So we're collecting all this data.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have these, I'm going to use this word, fucked up algorithms.
It's a heavy word.
I used healing and fuck. That was interesting.
Yeah,
this
like
podcast.
matter like 2 sentences. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm using that word for a reason, because we're giving this machine that we've created, that's created all these biases, even worse, again, it's kind of going against humanity. And now we're just feeding it more and more, and it's just growing.
Making it more biased.
And giving it steroids and hormones, and it's just...
We're going to call them FUBAR algorithms.
You've seen those big beef cattle that are all...
Yeah, the big beef boys. Yeah. Overstimulated.
Yes.
Yeah. These are the FUBAR algorithms. We just... Again, it boils down to responsibility, self-awareness, okay, and saying, wait a minute, is this inclusive? Does this unify? No, don't do it. If it isn't good for you, it's not good for everybody else.